I'm recording now. Okay, now the first number one has been done for you. The night is as dark as black stone. Now I don't know what that means. Black stone. I know it's a character in Treasure Island. This is simile because it compares the night with the black stone using as. Now let's look at number two. What figure of speech, please?
Number two is a metaphor.
Metaphor, correct. Move to number three. Move to number three. I underlined the two keywords there. Number three.
Um, Number three is
Opposite words.
oh yes, opposite word.
Two opposite words placed side by side. It's oxymoron. Have you heard of oxymoron before, the figure of speech?
Yes.
Good. So when you place two direct opposite words side by side, now just ignore the prepositions and the articles. Okay? Another example is Nigeria is an oil-rich poor nation. Rich and poor, oxymoron. Okay? Now, David is as noble as his father. Figure of speech, please.
Simile.
Simile, very, very easy. Move to the next, please. I heard the humming of bees.
Onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia. Okay, move to the next one. That's very correct. Once we get to 10, I will not give you clues anymore.
Personification.
Personification, yes, because you made the experience look like a human being. That's very correct. Move to number 7.
Um, Hyperbole.
Very correct. Very correct. That's very smart of you. Now, look at this, number 8.
Metaphor.
No. Yes, I can give you metaphor this, but there's something more about it. It's more of that thing than a metaphor. I can give you metaphor, but there is more of that thing. Look at the last two words, and you will find the effects there. Two opposite words. Did you say it in number
Oh,
8?
oxymoron.
Very correct. Oxymoron. Number 9. I didn't teach you this, but I did teach you
Alliteration.
alliteration. Very correct. Move to number 10.
Personification.
Personification. Correct. Yes. Number 11. This is where I will not give you. I'll stop giving you clues.
Oxymoron.
Very correct. Clearly confused. How can you say somebody is clear and confused at the same time? Number 12. Number 12.
Simile.
Similarly, move on to number 13.
Oxymoron.
Very correct. Alone and together. Smart of you. Bravo.
Metaphor.
Very correct. Move on. Keep moving. I'm so much impressed. 15.
Oxymoron.
Very correct. Open secrets.
Personification.
Personification. Very correct. Yeah. Look at 17.
Um, Hyperbole.
No. Look at something very prominent in that sentence. Something is so common in that sentence. Look at it in almost every word there. And
Metaphor.
no, and it begins with the same consonant letter. I'm breaking my promise, telling you I will not give you a clue. Look at number
Oh,
17.
um,
Yeah.
alliteration,
Very correct. Alliteration. You can find the GG there. Number 18.
personification,
No. You are comparing the soldiers with the lion without the use of
metaphor,
metaphor, correct? Number 19. I will not give you a clue. Number 19.
metaphor,
No. It's actually alliteration, hyperbole. This watch must have cost millions of dollars. You know, this is an exaggeration. This is an exaggeration. Okay, the last one, simple, like just like 18. Number 20, similar to 18.
metaphor,
No, I said similar. I didn't say it's it.
simile,
Simile, very correct because of the like now. Without now, as far as I'm concerned, you did very well. Very, very well. Now, let's look at something today. In your paper, you know, paper one and paper two, we have both reading and writing sections. So, paper one, after the gap filling questions, which we will look at later, we have the part B, which is mostly writing. For paper one, which is non-fiction, you are going to write an article. For paper two, which is fiction, you are going to write a story. So I want to take you through how to write a checkpoint standard story. Okay? Now, remember the checkpoint, this carries 25 marks, the story part. Okay? So let's begin. And remember, you have 1 hour, 10 minutes. Approximately, for the story part, you should spend not less than 30 minutes. Now, this is what they will do first. In the whole paper, they will give you a passage to read and answer some gap filling questions. Okay? Which is the reading part. When you are done with that, they will now give you a section B. Now, the question will look like the passage that they gave you. You will write a similar story using the passage as a clue, but do not copy from the passage. If you copy from the passage, you're going to lose marks. So you only use the passage as a clue. It says, write a story about arriving in a place and meeting someone for the first time. The previous passage may definitely will have some elements about arriving um, at a place for the first time. Now look at this. A teenager from a part Indian family living in the UK has just arrived alone to India. So you see, you are going to change the places. UK to India, you can change it from Nigeria to Switzerland, it's up to you. Write a story about arriving in a new place and meeting someone for the first time. Now, you should consider the place where you both meet, the person, their appearance, and their character, and what happens after you meet. Now, this is what they want you to write in your plan. Please, this is the space for your plan, and you have to use it judiciously. Now, okay, hold on. Let me see. Okay, so this is your plan. What you do, according to uh, the guide here, okay, yeah, I think this is big enough. According to the guide here, consider the place you both meet. So you're going to you write your plan. If you're both going to meet in Switzerland, state where in Switzerland or France, the Eiffel Tower. Make sure you discuss more about where you meet. The person, Is the person your friend, your family member, or your just a schoolmate? You have to establish that. And what happens? Okay. Now, if you go back to the story, you're going to read some things about the person. But if they say you, if in this story yeah, you met at the airport, you can change yours to the swimming pool or a train station. Okay, that's actually being original. What? Make sure you draft your plan. Okay, before you start writing your story. But most importantly, what are they expecting in your story? One, they want you to establish the setting. I'm discussing the elements of a story now. And remember, in that story, they said the place where you both meet. So, when writing any story, you must establish the setting. The setting is the place where the story happened. Okay? Did it happen in the city? Did it happen in the village? Did it happen at the airport? At the swimming pool? In school? So you must establish the setting. You must make the reader feel your setting. Okay? So this is an element of any story. You must tell them where the story happened. After that, you mention the characters. Now, the characters are people in the story. Okay? You can also use animals. You can also use human beings. But you can only do that when you are writing fiction. Okay? For example, they ask you to write a story about a dragon. You know, you are going to imagine some, you know, unbelievable characters. Like this character from Avengers. Bruce, or I've forgotten the character's name, but I know played by Vin Diesel. Like this, the rabbit does not talk. You can include that, but not in this kind of story because this kind of story looks so real. If you're writing a story about fairy tales, you can include all this. So, when writing your story, apart from the characters, apart from the setting, you must write about your characters. Please, when writing about characters in Checkpoint, make sure they do not exceed 3. Use between 2 and 3. If you use more than 3, you will end up writing a book. And remember, you don't have time for that. You have only 30 minutes. Now, the final thing is dialogue. You must make these characters talk to one another so that the examiner will feel your characters. You must bring your characters to life. You look cute today. Thanks. Whoever is reading your story will feel your characters come to life. But if you just keep on saying, and the rabbit remembered, the rabbit ran away, you must make the characters talk. Okay? Please remember that. Now, how do you begin your story? Begin your story with either of these 3. I call it DAD. You begin with your story with either a description, an action, or dialogue. So let's look at them. A description. Once upon a time, there lived a man in the city of London who had 3 children and works at the factory close to Browning Street. If you're writing your story, if you're writing the Checkpoint story here, you can say, I arrived in India for the first time. The place looks so, you keep on describing. You can begin your story like that. Or you can use dialogue. Remember, dialogue is a key feature, okay, of a story. The way it's shot. It was made by those who are dead and the dead keep it. The way it's shot. Now, this is a line from The Lord of the Rings. Okay? So you can begin your dialogue with that. How are you? Welcome to India. The hostess smiled. You can start with that. Or you can start with action. One clean jump and the leopard sailed effortlessly over the wall, landing noiselessly inside the compound. It made straight for the pen. If you are writing your story, according to the Checkpoint question, you can say, I rushed out of the terminal and I dashed straight for the tarmac. It's up to you, whatever you want to write. So you can either start with description, dialogue, or action. Okay? Begin your story with either of these 3 and you will see how, and start building your story from there. Okay? Now, look at the plan. Use the plan to just write out what you intend to include in your story. What should I include? Okay, remember you're beginning with description, action, or dialogue, the place where you met. Remember to also to include the title. I arrived in India, blah, 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 blah. India is a very nice place with a population of 1.3 billion, and they are mostly, so you keep describing, it's up to you, okay? Just remember one important thing. Whatever you are describing, use the figures of speech skill that you learned on Friday. Instead of saying the place is nice, you can compare the place with somewhere you know that is nice. Okay? You can say the hostess or the receptionist greeted me with smiles from heaven. It's up to you. Just paint your words using language. Now, remember to include your title. Use imagery and other figures of speech to spice up your work. As he turns to leave, an air of tension blew into the room, sending chills into the hearts of his wife. Now, if you look at this first underlined uh, group of words, this is what figure of speech? An air of tension blew into the room. An air of tension blew into the room. What figure of speech was used here, please?
Personification.
Good, good. So instead of saying everybody was scared, blah, 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 the wife was scared, you just use figures of speech to paint the words. Make the reader see an image. Okay? Tears started flooding down her cheeks. This is hyperbole. There is no way you will cry that it will turn to flood, right? As the door slammed shut, this is both onomatopoeia and alliteration. Both of them are actually sounds anyway. So once you start using imagery, figures of speech, you will see how lovely. Whoever is reading your work will be so enchanted. Now, ending your story must have beginning, middle, and end. At the beginning, you arrived at the airport, you met with this friend, you discussed, something happened, and at the end, you are going back to the UK. You know, your story must form a full circle. Your ending must bring the story to a round circle. Beginning, once upon a time, there lived a man in the city of New York. He had 3 children. Middle, they faced a tough challenge. You have to create the challenge. Okay? At the ending, Jim gathered his children and wife and went to the man who saved his son from the attack. They all had dinner. You can see the beginning, everything was fine. The middle, there was trouble. And at the end, they became happy again. So it must form a full circle. Okay? So this is what you are going to attend. But before we do that, let's take this once more from the very top. Okay? If you have questions, just keep asking now. You can ask now. Remember, you have the reading part, 1 hour, 10 minutes, but you are advised to spend 30 minutes so that you can use the other 5 minutes to recap. They will give you a passage for you to go through to read and answer gap-filling questions. The writing part will be similar to the passage you read, but do not copy. Do not copy from the passage. If you do, you're going to lose marks. Okay? They are going to also give you bullet points to address. So you will have a plan. They want to see your plan. Okay? They want to see your plan. So please draft out your plan. You can scribble your plan. They just want to see how you were able to develop the plan into a full-fledged story. We talked about the elements of a story. These are the things the examiners will look for in your story. The setting. Where did the story happen? You can see it has already been established here. The setting, the place, the character, the person, and what happens next, the action. Now, the setting, which is the place, the characters. Remember they said here, the person. So you just, and I told you, do not write above 2 characters, okay? Dialogue, let your characters talk. Let them speak, bring them to life. Begin your story with either of these 3, description, dialogue, or action. Description, we talked about this, describe the main characters or the family or the story, the title. You can start with dialogue, you can begin with a dialogue, you can also begin with an action to create suspense, okay? Now, like I said before, walk on your plan based on the bullet points. Then in your write-up, use figures of speech to create imagery. At the ending, just bring your story to an end happily after. Okay? Now, here, beginning, you see they were living happily. At the middle, they faced the tough challenge. The tough challenge is the action. Then the ending is where you bring everything to a halt. Okay? So, this is what, of course, you are going to do this. I'm going to snapshot this and send it to your WhatsApp.